这老娘讲的，来给我那个做多少危险？也亮过有
And they also publish different benefits, of which we will also share with you.
今天我们在这边是小贩，
Good to see you again.
That's fantastic. You see some of our provincial members as well. Khalid Rashid's right here. Sharif El-Sabawi. Anybody else? So you got good representation from your municipal and your provincial government. Wonderful to see everyone. I was running a couple of minutes late. They kept me on the radio tonight. You know why? I have some big news to share with you. Even my councillors may not know this yet. We are going to transform Celebration Square on Thursday night into Jurassic Park West. So if you want somewhere to watch this very exciting game, the Raptors going into the finals with the Golden State Warriors, bring your family, bring your friends, bring your neighbors to Celebration Square. I think we can accommodate, what, 30, 40, 50,000 people. We're going to have the big screen and we're going to show the game. So come on out an hour ahead of the game time and we're going to have a great big party. We're going to show them how Mississauga does it, right? What a great time we're going to have. Nobody needs to spend $10,000 on a ticket. Just come down to Celebration Square, right? You can bring a picnic. Enjoy it with your family. So I'm always delighted to be here. Winnie, I want Winnie Fung. I want to... Sorry, I got y'all excited. See what I did? I got y'all excited. Now I'm going to get a long, boring speech. Oh, I should have saved it to the end and closed that you got a high note. But no, I got you going. Anyways, always a pleasure to join the Chinese community, Chinese business community in particular, for a State of the City address. Many of you come to my speeches when I'm at the Board of Trade. How many of you have heard me speak at the Board of Trade? Probably a lot of you have. Of course the councillors have. 4 hands went up, right here. Yep, they better come. No, so I know many of you heard that speech, so we thought we'd update it a little bit, talk about some of the business developments in the city, talk about our plea for independence. I've got our provincial members listening to me, right? Captive audience. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We want to thank them for listening to the big city mayors and small mayors across Ontario, and reversing the retroactivity of the healthcare cuts, and it still gives us time until January to talk to them a little further on other efficiencies we can find. Maybe I'll talk to them about the efficiencies we find in Mississauga, so they won't be too quick to make any cuts to us, because we're pretty good business partners in Mississauga, and we know all about lean and efficiencies and cutting red tape, right guys? The team says yes. So many thanks to the Chinese business community for allowing me to come tonight. And I am also happy to take questions if you have any afterwards. We don't want to tie up your dinner too long, but a few, not a problem. So I am happy to tell you, and I know the Chinese community would love to hear this, that we are the business capital of Canada. Did you know that? The business capital of Canada. We have more businesses per capita than any other city. Is that not great news? Come on, that is great news. Not too many cities can brag that they have 94,000 businesses, 75 Fortune 500 companies, and 14 multinationals, 1,400 multinationals, so that's a big number. Most of them, of course, are small businesses, about 90%. 95% are small businesses, but it's the small businesses that are fundamental to running the economy, that are driving our city's economy. And we have business improvement areas right across our city. We have four of them in Port Credit, in Clarkson, in Streetsville, and in Malton, serving those small businesses in those areas. And one of our key strengths in Mississauga is that we have a highly trained, highly skilled workforce. We have talent here. And that is largely because we are so diverse. People from 150 different countries speaking 200 languages choose Mississauga to be their home, and you know as well as I know that to qualify to come into Canada, you better bring in either a big investment with you or be highly trained and highly skilled. And that's why our residents are so highly trained and highly skilled. And also, they have higher than average post-secondary education. 2/3 of our residents have post-secondary education, and of that, 20% have professional designation. Engineers, accountants, etc. Professionals, all professionals in Mississauga. And that's what drives the job creation. Last year alone, the city was directly involved in 4,500 new jobs. And so we like to say we're the second largest cluster of employment in the GTA, right next to Toronto. In fact, we outpace the province in job creation. We create an average of 27 new jobs every day. Who here in this room created jobs today? Let me see. Anybody hire anyone today? Did you create a new job? We create 27 in Mississauga each and every day. Isn't that a great number? And to be business capital of Canada. I hope you remember that, and I hope you repeat it. And Council General is going to repeat it too. He was in Mississauga, the business capital of Canada, right, Council General? So we're very, very proud of that. The other statistic I'll share with you is that we are a net importer of jobs. So back 45 years ago when Mississauga was created into the vibrant, dynamic community that we are, we had big boulevards, big homes. It was the residence for those executives as they commuted to Toronto. Boy, have times changed. As the businesses have chosen to locate here, we have the most incredible quality of life here. And guess what? We are now a net importer of jobs. So more people start and end their day in Mississauga or drive into work than drive out to work somewhere else. So we're a net importer of jobs, and that's a very important statistic, and it's one that made me very proud. So I told you, last year, 3,600 companies chose Mississauga to invest and to grow. So these are companies that are expanded or companies that are new investments for our city. 3,600 just last year. And let me tell you some of them. The recently that have come to Mississauga, the big names that you will know. Let's start with CBS Film Studios, Film and TV, 6 sound stages. It's going to be huge for Creative Strategies Industries. It's actually our 3rd film studio, so very, very proud of that. Campbell Soup, when they left Etobicoke, needed a new home. Guess where they came? They came to Mississauga. Cognizant, I actually had to bid on the Cognizant business. Toronto Global said, oh, there's a consulting company. They're looking for highly trained, highly skilled workforce and be close to the airport, I think. And they want to be in Toronto or in Waterloo. I said, what are you talking about? They need to be in Mississauga. And they said, well, you'll have to talk to them. They're thinking Waterloo or Toronto. And I said, well, you let me talk to them, because if anything, that's our skill set. Our core competence is our highly trained, highly skilled people. And of course, we have the airport. The airport's actually the Mississauga International Airport. So, that's right. So I had to bid for that business against Waterloo and Toronto, and I'm just letting you know that we were successful. They have over 800 consultants here now, high-paying jobs, and there's another 1,200 to go. So there'll be about 2,000 people at Cognizant up in Meadowvale Business Park. So I'm very, very proud of that one. Fluid Master, GlaxoSmithKline expanded, Hoffman LaRoche expanded, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries Aerospace expanded, Bombardier, instead of leaving the city, they left Toronto, they left Downsview, they came to Mississauga, making us the largest aerospace cluster in all of Canada now, so we're very, very proud of that. And now, how many of you are on Facebook? You get those ads for furniture from a company called Wayfair? How many of you seen those ads? I get them every day. Every day on Instagram, or if you're on social media on Facebook, right? All that home products. Well, I went to see them in Boston, and they told me they were looking for a Canadian headquarters. So guess what? Wayfair, newest Canadian headquarters outside the United States, outside Boston, now in Mississauga. Isn't that fantastic? That's what happens when you look at the market. And the last one I'll tell you about, because I know this is maybe one you heard before. It's not a new story, but it's a good story. And that is when I was at the Bio Conference 4 or 5 years ago, I met a Brazilian pharmaceutical company, and they wanted to have a North American footprint, and they had been speaking to the state of New Jersey. And New Jersey said, you know, we'll give you tax-free incentives for 10 years if you locate in New Jersey. And they thought that was a really great deal, and then they met me. And I said, you're going to why would you go to New Jersey? And they explained. And I said, have you thought about Canada? And he said, the cost structure is too high. And I said, what if I can prove to you it's 17% less expensive for you over the long term? Plus we have highly trained, highly skilled people. The dollar is lower, our salary scales are lower. And by the way, you're Brazilian, we have 4% people speak Portuguese. What do you think? And they said, we're listening. So guess what? At the end of the day, $56 million investment. Instead of going to New Jersey, Biolab, largest Brazilian pharmaceutical company, came to Mississauga. So we're very, very proud of our ability to attract business or expand businesses that are already here, right? Sometimes you go deep instead of go long. You think you know that. Now, I think you've heard in the news a little bit about the regional governance review that the provincial government is undertaking. About 15 years ago, and I'm sorry Hazel's not here because she'd be cheering me on, she created that One City, One Voice campaign. She thought 15 years ago we were big enough to go our own way. So she started this campaign, went to the provinces, tried to speak to the premier at the time, was Dalton McGuinty, and said, Mississauga, we should be a single-tier independent city. And the premier at the time said, well, I don't disagree with you, but I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole, because I don't want to upset a lot of people, especially a lot of people in Brampton and Caledon. And it's not in our agenda to really change any of the regional government structures. But this government got elected. We have two representatives right here. Sharif is here and Khalid is here. And this government, in looking for efficiencies, was looking at regional governments and thought they could deliver better efficiencies by changing the model. What they have said is there won't be a one-size-fits-all approach, right, guys? So there are regions that they're looking at that want to amalgamate. That's fine for them. They're all little small towns, so for economies of scale, for big infrastructure projects, they want to do that. That's fine. Other municipalities, other regions have said, leave us alone, it works fine. Then they look at us, and we're here saying, it doesn't work for us. It never worked for us, but now less so than ever. Region appeal is broken. It can't be fixed. We need to be single tier. We need to be independent. We're the 3rd largest city in Ontario, 6th largest in Canada. There are so many cities smaller than we are that are single tier, that are independent. The bigger ones, of course, Toronto, Ottawa, we're number 3. But then look at Windsor, London, Guelph, Hamilton. Barrie, Thunder Bay, Sault Ste. Marie, even Little Dryden. They're all independent single tier, so why are we in a region with Brampton and Caledon? So we don't know why that decision was made 45 years ago, but we have a good idea because we have a very strong assessment base. I just talked to you about what businesses we've attracted to Mississauga. We have a very strong business tax base, about 65% business, industrial, commercial, 35% residential. Guess what? Brampton's growing. So they're adding more people, building out subdivisions, but they're not growing their business base the same way we have. So they're about 35% businesses, 65% residential, the inverse of us. So they don't have the business tax base. So Premier Davis at the time said, well, maybe Mississauga can help build some of that infrastructure up there from the region. We don't know why it was done, but we're saying it doesn't work. We're 52% of the population. We provided 77% of the funding to the region appeal. It's gone down over the past 45 years, but we're still at, we provide 61% of the funding to the region appeal, and guess what? We only have 50% of the vote, for we're all pay and no say. And let me explain that. Region appeal, there are 24 of us, 12 from Mississauga, and Brampton and Caledon make up the other 12. Brampton brings 7, and Caledon brings 5. Caledon's population is 70,000 people, and they have 5 councillors at the regional council table. My wards are bigger than 70,000 people. Councillor McFadden, you got what, about 100,000. Councillor Fonseca, probably 70 or 80,000. Matt Mahoney, the same. So for one ward that they represent, there are 5 people from Caledon. So their vote is 4 to 1 for ours, and that's not democratic, and that's not representation by population. So that's not fair, and it is not equitable. Now we have done a number of studies in addition to the fact the voting isn't fair up there. Because when you think about it, we're at 3 different stages in our development. We're a mature city looking to build infrastructure, transit, embrace intensification, density. Brampton, beautiful city, don't get me wrong, they're bigger than we were when Hazel started the campaign, but they're still building out greenfield, they're building subdivisions. Caledon, also very beautiful. Do you drive the roads up in Caledon? Tell me, do you go up to Caledon and drive up there? Well, I hope so, because you pay for those roads, so. Kidding aside, you really did though. Where was I going with that? So the inequity, where was I going? Where was I at? Inequity, I'm going to the 84 million. So we did a couple of studies, and I'm going there. There are 84 million reasons to leave your lover. Yes, I know some. Neighbor, whatever. So beautiful communities, but there are different stages of their growth and development. So you can see there would be internal conflict just because we're at different rates of our growth and development. So we go to the council table up in the region appeal, and we want to do things, and we have to ask their permission. And they have to vote on it. We voted on it in Mississauga, then it has to go get blessed at the region appeal, so twice. So you got 2 planning departments, you got 2 legal departments, you got 2 clerks departments. You can't tell me it is more efficient to run 2 levels of government than 1, because it's not. It is not. We are paying doubly to reproduce all that duplication up at the region appeal. So we want to streamline things. Back 15 years ago, Hazel and her council and the staff did a report, and at the time, Mississauga was paying $32 million more than Brampton and Caledon. We were transferring up there. This is in addition to paying for our 65% of the operating cost of the region. This is incremental to that. So we thought we'll update those numbers, see what they look like today after 15 years, and guess what we found out? Our internal numbers told us that even though we fund the region, 61% of the costs are ours, we still, ready? $84 million to Brampton and Caledon. $84 million, okay? So then there was a study done at the region. The region commissioned a study to prove that the region is justified. And you know what that report found? They had a lot of flawed flawed assumptions, but what it did find was that in any dissolution, Mississauga would thrive because of our strong financial matrix, and we don't disagree with that. We disagree with everything else they were looking at. Because the premise of the report, when you hire a consulting firm, is, you know, their premise was justify the region, and so it did its job. But then we said, that's not fair. We want to look at something, a fair report. We want to all agree on the terms of reference. So we had the 4 city managers, Mississaugas, Bramptons, Caledon, and the Region of Peel agree on the terms of reference. And that was the Ernst & Young report. You know what the Ernst & Young report, I'm so glad you're here, Hazel. I'm telling the story of regional government. And Hazel, when she looked at the report, let's remind her how much additional money Mississauga was paying, $32 million. And the Ernst & Young report said they actually came up with the exact same number that our internal report came up with, $84 million more, even after we fund the region 61%. $84 million gets transferred to Brampton and to Caledon, and that's largely in Peel policing and in roads and in all that other stuff that I was talking about. So you can see there's a fundamental inequity, and it just doesn't make sense anymore. Right, guys? Looking at our provincial members, because they're the ones that have an ability to change this. So it's an outdated model. I believe that our hard-earned taxpayers' dollars should go into our priorities. So remember the number? What was the number? $84 million. That could be reinvested into Mississauga's priorities and our businesses and our residents. Now the Mayor of Brampton is running around saying, if we change the governance model and Mississauga became single tier, taxes would increase. And he's right, because they will, in Brampton. But we have no plan. We think there could be savings as a result, right? So ultimately it would be a tax shift. That is true, and you know, maybe at the end of the day we'll have to agree to some transition help. After all, we've been funding them for 45 years, maybe another year or two won't matter. But they're our friends, they're our neighbors, but we just feel that, you know, they should be able to stand on their own 2 feet, just as we have to stand on our own 2 feet. I mean, if I run my credit card up, you're my friend and neighbor, will you help me pay my bills?
I wish I could.
There you go. I wish she could. See, she wishes she could. So it's nice that we offer to help, but we shouldn't have to. That money should be invested in our own priorities and our own businesses and residents. So we don't think that's fair. You work hard for your money. You work hard for your tax dollars. We want them put into our city. Now, what else can I tell you? $84 million. Now, some people have... let me just close with 2 more examples because I want to lay to bed any myths that are out there. The first one is that because this would be a divorce, there would be a big settlement at the end of it. You know how that happens sometimes in a divorce. I don't know, but maybe somebody does. And so we had a legal opinion, and there's something called the Cummings principle that says that if the benefit of the asset remains in use with the taxpayer, then it is deemed to be gosh, I should be able to phrase this better for you, of continuing value to that taxpayer. So the bottom line of the Cummings principle is that there is no payout. So whatever assets reside in Brampton, they get to keep, Peel Regional Council. Then there are other assets in Mississauga that we get to keep. And that's how that exists. There is no payout. Whatever assets exist, you keep, and that's it. The other misinformation that has been reported is that for some reason they are saying, I'm almost finished, sorry, that they pay for our growth, and now when they're growing, we don't want to help them. This is fundamentally false, and you need to know that that is false, because we have over-contributed for 45 years, so you can tell that the numbers don't add up whatsoever. And the kind of growth that the Mayor of Brampton is talking about, water treatment plant, well, they didn't pay for that. Development charges paid for that. Developers paid for that, so they did not pay for that. In no way, shape, or form did they pay for our growth. This is false, but I don't blame him. I don't blame him. He has to make some sort of argument on why we should keep the status quo. And that's his argument. So they're very much in favor of keeping things the way they are, and heck, I would be too if I was getting $84 million from my neighbor. I'd want to keep things just the way they are. Thank you very much. But we think that we would like to keep our money in Mississauga, keep your money in Mississauga and invest it here in our businesses, our residents, and our priorities so that we can continue to grow. When I just want to raise, I know I'm probably speaking a little bit too long, because there's one area I want to cover, and that is the area of savings and efficiencies, because the provincial government, and I have two members here captive, so they're going to have to hear me out, and you know, they're very big on cutting red tape and looking for efficiencies, and I want to tell them that the poster child for efficiencies is Mississauga. We're the ones who have been finding savings and operating efficiently, effectively, delivering good value for taxpayers' money, and cutting red tape over the past 45 years is right here at home. So in the beginning, our city manager used to challenge our departments to cut 1%. But then we learned you just can't keep cutting to prosperity, and it just became unfeasible. However, they were finding $4 or $5 million back in the beginning, $4 or $5 million every year. And then we found a new way of doing that, and it's called Lean. It's a program where we look for more cost-effective ways, more efficient ways of delivering programs and services. And we do that, and sometimes it eliminates an FTE, but sometimes there's just better ways of doing things that are faster, better, and cheaper. And I have to tell you that over the past 11 years, we have found $60 million. $60 million in savings. So looking at the provincial government to say, you will find savings when you go line by line too. Don't look at our bottom line, don't look at us. You guys look over there, you will find savings too, especially in health industry. And this year alone, we found $3.1 million in savings. That's pretty good. Last year was 4, the year before that it was 5. But every year we look to find these savings through Lean, and otherwise that money would be on your tax bill, okay? So we're very good at that. Mississauga, because of Hazel McCallion before me, and I adopt the same principles, we try to operate like a business and be nimble and do what businesses would do to find savings and act efficiently and effectively. One example of that, and by the way, we've had a AAA credit rating, and we're the envy of most municipalities right across the GTA, is e-plans. So I don't know if any of you are in the development business, but you remember the architects and the engineers used to come with these big long scrolls, this long, and roll them up and come to our planning department and say, here you go, I want my building permit. And now we said, you don't need to do that, because guess what? We're online, you can email them to us. And that has saved so much money and is so much faster and so much more efficient. So that's just one example of many I could give you. And frankly, since we've gone online, we've processed over 20,000 applications, and we've converted an impressive 93% of our applications to online, so it's great. The last two things I'll talk about, and I'll only do it briefly, is the development going on in Mississauga, because it's pretty significant. You're in the right city. How many people don't live in Mississauga? You see, everybody does, 1 or 2, but you wish you did now, right? Wait till I tell you about the development. Because I told you about the savings of the independence movement and Jurassic Park. I bet that got you too. But let me tell you about the development. So you know we're building our LRT, and we had full funding announced by the previous government. This government has confirmed it. We're very grateful. Thank you very much. $1.4 billion. There was a scope change, so we aren't having the loop, but we're very hopeful that by the 4 or 5 years that the LRT is built out, maybe there'll be money for the loop again. We're hopeful. Just talk to them. Remember the loop. Remember the loop. So 19 kilometers north-south on here, Ontario. We'll stop about every kilometer. The RFPs are out, and they should break ground in the fall. We're very grateful. It connects the GO train stations and goes all the way to Brampton Shoppers World. It steals Brampton, and the previous council turned down light rail. Now light rail takes people off. Well, it accommodates 200 people. There's only 50 people on a bus, so that's 4 buses off the road. We want to give people options to get out of their car, right? And so that's going to do that. It's going to move people across Mississauga. People always say, why don't you build a subway? You need a lot of density for a subway, and we just don't have it. But if the Premier would like to give us a subway to our doorstep, we won't say no, right? We'd be happy to take the subway to our doorstep. But we don't want to pay for the operations of it or the building of it. It's too expensive. Even Toronto doesn't cover the cost of operations of the GTC. You need a lot of density. And when we were looking at the cost of building even the LRT, $1.4 billion, to raise it to a monorail was 4 times the cost, and to tunnel it, build a subway, 7 times the cost, so it's not cost effective. It would, as Hazel used to say, bankrupt the city. So if you want to bring one to our doorstep, right to our LRT that we can't afford, we'll take that, thank you very much. So in the south, I referenced some of the beautiful developments occurring. We used to have the power plant on Lakeview, and Hazel McCallion was actually on the engineering team that built that power plant, if you could believe it, and then she was there to take it down. So that's pretty incredible in one career. But we're delighted it came down. 167 acres are being developed, 67 acres back to the city for culture and education and wonderful things. And it'll be developed into mixed-use communities. So you can live there by the water, you can have work by the water, there'll be education facilities, recreation, there'll be splash pads and kayaking and skating in the winter, and it'll just be a fantastic place that you'll want to be all the time. And many of you will want to live there once it's built too. There will be, I think I saw some numbers, give me 1 second, just 5,000 to 7,000 new homes, including townhouses, mid-rise, high-rise. So that's pretty good. And then just further west, Mississauga Road Lakeshore, the former Imperial Oil lands, so Texaco lands, depending on how old you were, you called it something different. Also revitalized, cleaned up, 72 acres, mixed-use community, and again about another 5,000 homes, whether they be townhouses, condos, or stacked townhomes. So much going on in Mississauga. And in the downtown, we're trying to recreate complete city, livable, walkable city. 25 towers. 25 towers coming into the downtown. We know our beautiful Marilyn Monroe towers. On the other side of the downtown, we're building the M-City. And they won't curve, but they'll twist. They'll be square, they'll twist. So they'll be beautiful as well, and they'll change the landscape. So I have talked a lot. I wanted to share with you the exciting news of how businesses are growing. They're continuing to invest and choose Mississauga in which to locate their businesses, and I know all of you are business people, so that interests you. I wanted to give you the pitch on the independence movement being single tier, because I wanted to put to bed some of the misinformation that's out there, and beside I had captive provincial members, so I wanted them to hear my message. And then I wanted to talk to you a little bit of the developments that are going on in the city. So I hope you've appreciated the update and enjoyed the stories I've told you. And I look forward to giving you another update at least next year, if not before. So, Shay, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much, I can't seem to do a project in Toronto without going over budget and not on time. The Union Stations has been renovated for the last 10 years, and the budget overrun is just under $1 billion. Do we want to take that over? No, thank you. Anyway, it's just great. The Chinese Business Association that I've been associated with day one with Clement and one other person that started the Chinese Business Association in Mississauga. Had a little office over on Eglinton, not very big, and think of what it's grown into. A huge organization, but more important than that, a dynamic organization that has helped us in so many ways to build this great city of Mississauga. And one of their chief things is crime prevention. They took on that project. They started it how many years ago? 15 years ago? In a parking lot.
19 years ago.
In a parking lot in the center of Mississauga. And now it's grown into another great opportunity for the Mississauga people to get to know the Chinese and to know the contribution they've made. So here we are again, another great celebration. of the success of the organization. You know what is so great about the Chinese is they integrate into the community. The Chinese Business Association conducts many trade missions, the crime prevention, etc. And the Chinese Business and Professional Association concentrates on health. See, so they cover all. They're involved. They're getting their people involved in helping us to build this great community of Mississauga, the city. And so I want to congratulate you on it. I just love working with you. You're so entrepreneurial. You are the prime example of an entrepreneur, the Chinese people. They don't look for work or go on welfare when they come to this country. They get to work right away into some business or other. And so you should be very proud of their accomplishments. So thank you for inviting me again. I'm sorry I was late waiting for my niece that's leaving for the Gaspé Coast tomorrow morning. She has to pick up some things at the house. She never showed up, so I finally left and said, well, I guess she goes without her. Anyway, have a great evening. Have a great 2019-20. We got some challenges economically, and I want to congratulate the Premier on cutting back the budgets of the municipalities, because I didn't feel badly about it, and I'm sure the Mayor didn't either, because every year we've done what the Premier wants every municipality to do, to go over their budget and find the efficiencies. There can be money saved, because there's no public organization that exists today that can't find efficiencies and operate less costly than they have. So yes, the Premier went back on it for this year because it was during the budget, after their budgets were approved. But I hope he goes at them next year and gets those efficiencies implemented so that better service can be provided, more efficient service provided, etc. So thank you, Madam Mayor, for your bringing us up to date. I guess I got your card in the mail. I hope everybody returned the card to the Mayor's office. So telling them your opinion. And I hope that if you don't understand why Mississauga is, as the Mayor is saying, wants to leave the region of Peel, phone and find out. Phone the Mayor's office, phone the City Manager's office, phone the councillors. You have a councillor. And ask them the questions so that you will be well aware of that you can decide whether Mississauga should leave the region or not. Have a